Hi everyone, and welcome once again to Ruby's Classic Cooking. And today I'm making hamburger soup. Now it's not a really complicated recipe, but it makes about 16 cups of really lovely soup, and at 2 cups per serving, that makes about 8 cups, 8 servings of soup. If you make smaller bowls, then you have more servings, I guess. All I need is my nice big stock pot here. Nice heavy bottomed one. This one's got an aluminum pad on the bottom of it for a heat spreader. And you can see it's a nice big capacity that probably holds 18 to 20 cups, plus which would be about 5 liters. So that makes a really good, nice big batch of soup. If you have something bigger, that's great. So we'll just dive right in, and I'll tell you what you need for ingredients, which are quite a simple list. You need about 1.5 pounds of hamburger. Well, this is a nice lean hamburger that I ground myself. A couple of onions to chop up. 3 cans of beef consomme, or like a can of it. Well, this right here is a concentrated, so 1 of these plus 3 cups of water. So that's like about a liter total of liquid to add. A can of tomato soup with a can of water. A can of canned tomatoes, a nice big 28 ounce or almost 800 milliliter can of tomatoes. I like to buy the whole tomatoes because I have heard that when they make them and they use the chopped ones, they can use the less good ones, as they say, you know. So this is a better quality product. So I also try and get it salt free when I can, because then I get to control how much salt goes into my food. There's already plenty of salt in this to add to my soup as it is. Then I add right today I have 5 carrots to chop up, and I have a turnip. We call these turnips here in Canada, but they're purple top suede. Some people call them rutabagas. I only call them rutabagas around here if you want to charge more for them. And I'm going to be adding also some pearl barley. I don't know if you know what that is, but there it is, pearl barley. And I'm also going to add some vegetable soup mix flakes, which are just dried vegetables, which I'm just going to add a couple of tablespoons because they're dehydrated, and they'll just kind of add some extra vegetable goodness to my soup. Now, I also have garlic, clove, some thyme, some parsley, some pepper, some salt, some bay leaves, which I'll also be adding into my soup for flavoring it up. Now, I always fish the bay leaves out before I eat the soup because they stay pretty doggone crunchy no matter how well cooked they are. And I don't really like that kind of crunchy leaf texture. Let's get started. I'm just going to add a little oil to the bottom of my pan because this is such lean hamburger that I don't really want to scorch it on the bottom of my pan. Now I'm going to add this, and I'm just going to be using this, which is a flat wooden spoon with a flat top on top of it. You can use a regular spoon. I used to use a regular spoon for years. I just find this is good because I can cut up my ham. I can use it to beat up my hamburger inside of here and break up my hamburger, and I can also stir all around the bottom of my pan and get in all the corners, whereas with a spoon you got curves and, you know, anyway. So I'm just going to throw my hamburger in because I got to brown up my hamburger before I do anything else, because you know what, if you don't brown your hamburger, your soup is kind of gray. It doesn't get a nice golden brown richness to it, and you'll end up one little crumb of hamburger there in the corner doesn't want to come out. I'm going to brown up my hamburger on the stove, and I'm going to chop up my onions. And once I've chopped up my onions, I want to sweat them. I don't want to brown them. I just want to make them translucent. These are just plain old yellow white onions. Nothing fancy about them. And I'll just move my cans out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. And I'm going to cut these up into fairly small circles, because I don't want a giant piece of carrot when I'm trying to eat a bowl of soup. I just want a nice little piece of carrot that I can have on my spoon, and maybe get more than one thing at once on my spoon when I'm eating my soup. So first I'm going to put on my hamburger and brown that. and I'll bring it back and show you what it looks like when you know what browned hamburger looks like. I'll just add my onions on into it, and then I'll just I'll show you what they look like when they're sweated. They should just be translucent, but they shouldn't be getting brown yet. So I'll be back in a few minutes to show you the next step. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and chop up my vegetables. And while I'm chopping up my vegetables, I'll tell you that if you want to add, these are just the vegetables, the basics. But if I have a cabbage, I might add a cabbage to this, a small cabbage. If I have some broccoli stems, I'll cut up my broccoli stems like they were carrots, and I'll put those in. Any kind of firm vegetable that's not going to fall apart in your soup when it's cooking is excellent to add to the soup. If you like parsnips, add parsnips to it. You know, whatever your favorite vegetables are. I'm just going to use my, well, what am I doing? I'll just use my knife to do this with. No, you don't have to get super fussy about the fine, even dice. You can if you're a chef, but if you're just a homemaker making soup for your family, they're not going to be culling out a thing and measuring it to make sure that you got your competition size cubes of. Go for it. This is a wonderful warm soup, and it smells really welcoming when you're heating it up. And when I'm finished, I'm the only one who eats this soup, so I will take it and I will put it in 2-cup portions, and I'll freeze them. And when I want one, I take it out of the freezer, I put it in my microwave, I put it in my bowl, put it in my microwave, and I zap it. I just warm it up. And it makes a wonderful instant homemade soup meal well, not exactly instant, but you know, a wonderful homemade bowl of homemade soup to eat on a cold winter day, which is always warm and welcoming, especially here in Canada this time of the year. It's always nice to have a nice warm bowl of soup to look forward to at lunchtime. And you might be wondering what the heck this thing is. This is like a 2-handed knife blade, and it's something Pampered Chef sells, and it's a really great thing when you're tackling something like a turnip or a squash or some kind of really hard vegetable like that. This will cut down through here like this. You can just walk it back and forth like that, create a flat surface, and just go right down through it. Just got to wiggle the blade down through it. Cut them nice and into nice spoon-sized pieces, bite-sized pieces. And it doesn't matter if it's big or small. If you need to use 2 hands, you can use 2 hands. There you go. I'm just going to cut these into slices and then cut them into cubes like. Like I said, this isn't for a competition, this is for eating, so I try to get them all approximately the same size, but if some of them are bigger or smaller, no one's going to get into a fuss with me about it. If they do, you know what you do? You say, here you go, DIY. Do it yourself. Anyway, just gotta get this going here. Set up a nice little cubes here of turnip. In hardly any time at all. And now onto the carrots. Yeah, I'm just going to take them. I'm just going to use this because it's easier than using a knife. So I'm just going to go just right across here like that. And if I think it's getting too big at the end, I'll just cut it in half. Just like that. Now I'm just going to add my onion to my soup because my hamburger is all nicely browned. And like I said, I don't want this to brown. I just want it to be translucent and sweat them. And of course, if I didn't have my fancy chopper, I would just be using my regular paring knife to chop up these vegetables with. Okay, and I'm just going to bring this over to show you my sweated onions and cooked hamburger. See that? There you go. Nice sweated See how they are nice and translucent? Look, I don't know if you can see that or not. And my hamburger's all nice and brown. And none of it's stuck to the bottom of my pan. Now, I'm going to start adding some other stuff to here. So now, because this is soup, it just says, add everything into your large pot. So, there go my carrots and my turnips all chopped up, and any other vegetables that you're adding. If I was adding cabbage, or you wanted to add parsnips, or you want to add, like I said, broccoli stems, whatever your favorite vegetables are, as long as they're nice and firm and they aren't going to break up. Like I wouldn't put squash in this because it would just disintegrate. But these are going to stay as nice pieces of vegetable. And now I'm going to add my concentrated beef broth. So that's this. And since I need a liter, which is four cups, I'm just going to add 3 cups of water. But I'm going to pour some of it in here because I want to rinse this out, make sure I don't leave any of that concentrated beef stock in there. And then I'm just going to pour the rest of the water in there. And now I'm going to add my can of tomatoes. Now these are whole tomatoes. And the main problem with using whole tomatoes is when you squeeze them to break them up, try not to have them squirt juice up your sleeve. That is not fun, let me tell you. That is not a fun thing. And it's not good for your shirt either. Not good to get the stuff out of your shirt either. I'm just gonna dump this can of tomato soup in here. Do that. Here's my garlic. I'll put my clove of garlic in here. Mix up my can. Pour that in there. Just keep stirring to kind of break things up. Keep them moving. Keep them moving around. There we go. Now the fun part. The tomatoes go in. So first, I'm just going to hold that like this and pour the juice through my fingers, which are clean by the way. Now, I just pick these tomatoes up and I squeeze them in my hand. Just to break them up into pieces. Because you don't want whole tomatoes floating around in here. You want them to break up into little pieces. So, I know this is kind of gross. If you don't want to do it this way, you can either buy the chopped stewed tomatoes, or you can put them out, chop them on a board with a knife. But it's just kind of fun doing it this way. Can of water for the tomatoes. There we go. And now bay leaf is going in. It's a very dry little leaf. Some people say, why do you put them in there? Because they don't add anything. But I disagree. They do add flavor. Goes in a teaspoon of thyme. And there we go, a teaspoon of thyme. Teaspoon of parsley. Teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, or more if you like. I'm just going to eyeball that on my teaspoon and stir that around. Stir those in to my soup. And if you feel you need heat, you can always add a little jalapeno or whatever if you like right now. And I'll just add a tablespoon or so of a couple of tablespoons of these mixed vegetable flakes. Kind of eyeball that in there. There we go. Just something to give me a variety of vegetables that I don't have in here. And if you want to add some celery, you can add a couple of stalks of celery to this. You can add a couple of celery stalks. You can add whatever you like for flavor. And my final ingredient is a half a cup of pearl barley. There you go. Now, this really needs to cook down because it's like little rocks here. But when they cook down, they're lovely and they add a wonderful flavor to it. And I understand that barley is now considered a superfood. So there you are, adding a superfood to your soup. Now that all my ingredients are in my pot, I'm going to put this on the stove. I'm going to bring this all to a boil. I'm going to cover it up. and I'm going to let it boil for 3 to 4 hours, and then it'll be ready to eat, or rebag and put in packages to put away to eat another day. So there you go. I'll bring you back in 3 or 4 hours and show you what the final soup looks like, because right now it doesn't really look like a whole lot of anything but a whole bunch of veggies all thrown here in a pot. But let me tell you, as a bowl of soup, it's going to look mighty yummy. Hi everyone, and it's been 3.5 hours since I was last here, and my soup has been sitting on the stove, simmering away, and it has now changed quite a bit from what it looked like when I put it on 3 hours ago. So let me just ladle up a bowl of soup here, and I'll show you what I mean. There we go. And of course the first thing that pops out is a bay leaf, so let me just pick that out of there. There. Anyway, here's my lovely bowl of soup, and you can see my carrots have cooked, and my turnip is now softened, and my broccoli and my barley is now nice and full. It's not those little hard-looking little seeds. Now it's a nice soft-looking thing. There you go, and it's nice and thick, sort of a reddish bit there for the tomatoes. There you go. And I forgot to mention, if you want to cook this in a crock pot, you just put all of these ingredients in a crock pot, put it on low, leave it for 7 hours or overnight, and come back and you'll have lovely hot hamburger soup. Well, I hope you enjoyed my recipe today, and I hope you'll like, subscribe, comment, try making this soup. And if you do, I hope you enjoy it. You can add whatever vegetables you like. That's the thing about soup. It's your soup. You want to add jalapeno peppers or whatever to make it hot, a hot spicy soup, hey, you can do that. Or you can cook it the way it is. You can add whatever your favorite vegetables are to it, and it'll turn out just fine. Anyway, I hope to see you next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking. Bye for now.